Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have my breakdown for the 2022 Worlds Final event that happened this past weekend. It was an incredibly cool event to not only be at, but to be part of the production team, so just big shoutouts to my entire commentary team that I was working with. A lot of fun. I'm glad I was there, and just really fortunate to be part of such a big production for this event. So it's part of the Battle Hour event, which also had Fighter Z, as well as Legends, and there were some big announcements for the stream as well, including some stuff for the online client. If you guys want me to do maybe a more video kind of going over my expectations for that as well, I will do it. But man, what a great weekend. I'm still recovering for it. I'm pretty tired right now, but I really just want to get out these deck lists so you guys can see kind of how the Worlds event went. So we kind of want to go over the format as well. So we did have this top 8, but to get there, we did have the LCQ, which was approximately 150 people. It was 8 rounds of Swiss to a top 8 cut, which then was a single elimination bracket from there. And there were 2 winners from the LCQ top 8 to move on to day 2 because the Latin American winner could not arrive. So it was 7 winners and then 1 additional spot, but we got that extra spot due to the Latin American player not being able to show up. So that was kind of how that goes. I'm just choosing the top placing leader across both, since there were 6 unique leaders between the top 8s of both of them. And then it was also 8 rounds best of 1 pre-side, and then top 8 was single elimination best of 3 for both top 8 for the LCQ as well as for the Worlds event. So really, standard format, and I really do like the idea for something like this. And in this card game, it is like best of 1 pre-side in Swiss, and then top cut you do get the best of 3. Just because I know it's kind of rough sometimes for best of 1, but just balancing between timing and making sure the event can run in time and stuff. I think that's kind of nice. So there is also the VOD. You might hear some familiar. You might hear some familiar voices and also see some familiar faces, and it was a lot of fun to work on this and to be part of it. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed it there. So anyways, we're going to go over each one of these top placing leaders. We're going to start off with our winner for the event is Phillips SS Blue, Vegeta, and SS Trunks, father son, a leader that honestly before this I did make like a BT19 updated tier list. I didn't think this was the best leader, at least best yellow leader in the game. And definitely this was not on my radar for something to win this event either. But Philip made a lot of good tech choices. And obviously you guys saw the pie charts, right? Like Crimson Warrior is the deck to beat right now. There's so many people playing it. And Philip had such a good game plan against this leader. So kind of the way it worked and how his tech choices kind of went through is that if you look through this deck, there are a lot of negates in this build. So Power of the Super Saiyan, Release from Evil, which is not always a negate, but kind of is. 4 of the Vegeta Fatherly Encouragement, which does have a counterattack, is also Vegeta, which is great for the naming and just everything else you get to do with it. 4 time magics, 2 Frieza reinforcement, like all of these negates. It just means that he just like whenever my opponent was attacking with their leader with Crimson, I will negate their attack. It just means that they don't get their activate battle, which means they don't get their cycle, they don't get Saiyans into their drop area, and they also don't get to take a card from their life to their hand to help them get down to 4, which is obviously part of the errata for Crimson there. So that was really huge. If you guys, and this was a match on stream, it was a top 4 match, and man, it was so. I did not want to be the Crimson player in that matchup. It just seemed like there's not a lot I could do for it. And just the fact that like you can gain advantage with this leader without having to attack into a leader is just great as well. And so that was kind of the idea. You just make a wide board with a lot of your barrier Super Saiyan 2 Trunks, like you do, and just kind of go from there. And then you have your end condition. So end condition for this deck is actually the Frieza Emperor of Universe 7, an oldie but a goodie. I'm pretty sure like most people who watch this video don't know what this leader or what this card is and how it works. So Eeks Evolve for 1 and you have to discard Universe 7 on top of a Universe 7 Frieza with cost of 5 or more. That's not going to happen. You just play this for 7 outright, which does seem like very expensive for what it is, but it is a 30k triple strike. It has no protection, but if your leader card is yellow, your opponent's counter skill and non-keyword autos and activate skills cannot be activated unless they place 1 card from their life into their drop area. So this is just a really insane effect to have on the board. And so the idea and how he played the deck was, I'm going to play this just once, you're going to be at 7 life, But if they activate anything, they go into the drop area too. It's not even like they take the card from their life to their hand. It crits the life. And so being able to establish this, then have a bunch of attacks and be like, and essentially make sure that they have a really low hand size, all things considered, because they won't be able to awaken and just everything else. They won't have awakened until that point unless they are running their self-awakening cards. It's just a really good way to end the game, and it's a really good strategy. I know Philip definitely put a lot of practice and thought of what's the best way to beat Crimson, and this deck just seemed to steamroll. It just seemed like such an easy matchup. You have to play it really particular, but I did not want to play Crimson play against this deck very, very strong. So looking to the side, I don't think anything too crazy from there. A couple extra Friezas. This 5-drop Frieza Divine Transformation is actually really strong for what it does too. Your card's yellow, and also it's not a Universe 7 Frieza, so you can't EX Evolve on top of it into the 7-drop, just for people wondering. But if your leader card's yellow when this card's played, choose all your opponent's battle cards and rest mode KO them. Then the rest is for a different leader. But then also auto, once per turn when your opponent activates a counterattacks, choose it to 2 of their cards, switch in rest mode, and they can't be switched to active mode until the end of your opponent's next turn. So this card is great. The fact that this card, red isn't as prevalent, especially in these top 8s, as it used to be. So this card's pretty safe for that. It's a 5k combo, and if you are playing a grindier matchup, you have no fear to just play this guy, and then your opponent's going to have to have 2 less energy next turn if they want to play a counterattack or just anything else. It's a very strong card, and can really help you it's kind of like an anti-floodgate in a lot of ways. It's very strong, so I like the ad for it there. Everything else pretty standard. Kami, great, especially maybe in a mirror match. Gets rid of a lot of cards. Meki's a great card. Jiren's a great card, and just kind of everything else. So a lot more intricate things for this deck, but man, it just gets so much advantage. And again, if you're playing Crimson, you do not want to see this build because you are probably going to lose. You have to be running a lot of self-awakers. You got to see them because you won't have any cycle, and this deck just gets so much advantage by not doing anything comparatively. So it's really, really cool, and it just it makes sense because the way you can play it just reminds me of the original Frieza leader that you would use to be playing against this too. So big congrats to Philip there for being our world champion for 2022, and I'm excited to see what's next for him there. Next up, we do have Oliver with his second place Gamma list, and Gamma's just doing really well. Gamma's been pretty much meta relevant since it's been released, and I think Oliver's been running it for pretty much since then. He's been doing very well with the leader, and nothing too crazy in this list. I think not even a scratch is probably one of the more notable tech cards for this. Is the fact that it's a negate, and then also you can for one get a draw one, so it's kind of like a smaller version of the Saiyan Instincts if you don't want it. Obviously it's not on color, and obviously you don't get to do the combo, but the fact that it is a negate is pretty strong in some scenarios. Dimension Magic's great. Dirty Burst, you also are running a fat 50 cards exactly, so it's something to consider there. Android 17 and 14 both just very good floodgates for these decks. Android 17 is really dumb too because you can have either Beerus or Jiren. It doesn't have to be a blue Z battle card. You just have to have any Z battle card in play. So even Jiren, which you can just make it protected for the rest of the turn. It's going to be there. It's going to be 1 because sometimes you have a hard time making Z energy in this deck, but this is just an easy kind of way to get there. So everything else I think is pretty standard for the deck. Some other decision choices are super combos, just deciding to use Android 8 for more consistently seeing your pieces and for the charging, getting around energy exhaust. Android 18 here for the cycle. Sometimes you have the 3 energy for the arrival though, so I think it's a good card to sneak into this archetype and everything else. And then choosing Son Gohan Beyond the Ultimate as your secret rare. I think this is also just fantastic. It just helps you end your games, and I don't think Hatch is needed as much because you're not needing to it's not as fast as you're normally needing, so you're usually pretty good. So Z-Deck's great. I like being able to run Jiren. Jiren's such a bully in a lot of decks. It's very good at getting rid of some unisons, and I think that's a strong call for you there. Again, Beerus being a 2-drop with barrier means that you can play this, and then you can have Android 17 ready next turn, and then kind of go from there as well. Anything else? Nothing too crazy. Krillin the Cunning. Use a skill of battle card, extra card to switch to energy action mode unless they choose 5 cards from the drop to their warp. It means both players, so if you are doing this, you can't use your Sensu Beans or Dimension Magic without doing that. But this build's not running Sensu Bean, which is actually quite notable. Obviously, with it only be on defense and you having 3 energy at the start of every turn, pretty much as it is, I think that's already good enough. Desperate measures for floodgates, dirty bursts, mechie, more black smoke dragons, and by more I mean actually using black smoke dragons, and then also bad omen in case you need to do that burn there as well. So I think Oliver's a super good player. I hope you guys watch the finals. It's really good. It's a really good match, and I really enjoyed being able to commentate part of it as well. So that is our second place, our runner-up winner for the Worlds event this year. And going into our third place, we do have Antoine Edou with the Crimson. So Crimson definitely showed up, and if we look through there, like by the end of like the top 8, we had 4 Crimsons, and then the rest of the field, and all of them lost except for Antoine. So he was able to get that W, and then did lose in top 4, but did again win third on with at least one in these the runner-up match as well. So getting that third place finish. So obviously this deck has been strong. It's been strong for it's weird. It hasn't been strong since its release. It's been strong since essentially BT19's dropped, which has almost been a meta for like 4 months now. It's been a really long meta. We did have the ban list change. We did get some new cards halfway through in some promo packs, but man, it is still a very strong deck. I don't have a lot to say about this build specifically. I do like Baby the Unknown Parasite in this build. It does get you some extra draws. It's a 3-drop unison, so Black Smoke Dragon can't get rid of it. It's a little bit lower to the ground than like Majin Buu, which is not in the sideboard either, but I do like the fact that you can use it to give your leader double strike and plus 15k for the turn. And it just combos right, like if you need us to have an attack to go through to get to game, Baby Unknown Parasite along with the Baby Golden Avenger is just a strong combo. It just means that you also get to play this for free energy. You just have to make sure that you use it. You have to discard 2 cards, but it also means that you can play this for 5 outright, use the -5 afterwards, and then you get the plus 15k and double strike on your leader, which means that you're still being able to play the Baby Gold Avenger for free after that and then use the effect. So I like this unison a lot. It kind of didn't see a lot of play for a long time. I think Majin Buu really kind of shed, that's the better one, but if it's doing well in a list like this, maybe some re-examination I think is in order for some people. But I've always liked this unison. It's been fun, but it's hard to compete with Majin Buu because it doesn't have blocker. It's a 15k, and it doesn't get your energy back at the end of the turn, which isn't as important with this leader, but we'll talk about something else now. So a bunch of Saiyans. We are also running the Vegeta Harness Power as well. When this card is used a combo, choose up to 1 card in your opponent's combo, you return it to their hand, but also you can use the same thing. So it's like a Videl and also like a Jocko, which is an old card. If you guys know what Jocko is, let me know in the comments below. But we also have Begrudging Allies here. So battle cards being played with 3 costs or less. Send orders to warp. Additionally, if your leader is black, send 1 from your opponent's drop to warp. So that doesn't happen. But if your life is at 4 or less, this costs 1 inherently. So, and this deck is generically good at getting itself down to 4 life. So if you're able to do that, you're just being able to get a free negate. Or just a 1 cost like Desperate Measures, which is slightly better because it goes to warp instead of hand. So that's there. Also choosing to run the Z leader. This isn't always a choice, or isn't always in every Z deck. 20k crit double strike is just very good for what you're at and can help you close some grindier matchups if needed. Sideboard, nothing too much. Deborah, Ritual at hand. There's no green's not in the meta. Why are you running that card? Combi's really great. It can be good for specifically Phillips matchup because if they go wide on the board, it's mostly with like 3s and 4s with barrier, so this can get rid of all that, which is nice. And nothing else too crazy here. So just big congrats to Antoine for their finish, being able to get to the 3rd place. Really great finish. And even with Crimson, it's when you're in a room and when you're in a top 8 with essentially the best players in the world that are using Crimson, and being able to get that 3rd place finish with it is, I think, quite the feat itself. So congrats again to Antoine for their 3rd place finish. And then next up we have Wang Po with the Beerus Reboot leader. And man, he played this deck very, very well. It was our first top 8 match of the day, and it's just really great. He was able to go first twice, which is important, I think, for this list. But man, how much ramp you're able to do and how much of a clock that you can just accelerate against your opponent and say, you know what? I want to win on next turn. I have 15 energy right now. Getting to 16 is still really, really easy for this deck. So obviously something with SS4 Vegeta, being able to ramp 4 is quite the strong thing, especially when you don't have to worry about Trunks counterplay anymore. So this is a really good card in the deck. You do have to find it, but when you do, you feel very good about it. You are also running the energy reset cards too. So We Judge of the Gods are SS Blue, Kaioken, Son Goku. So either of these cards can be used to pretty much reset your turn. So you get your energy back, and then you can do like another SS4 or something. Or if you're like at 15 and you need to charge like one more, Kaioken or again Whis can kind of get you there. And this is like a quad strike, which is pretty funny on that end too. And then everything else is pretty standard for what we are. Baby's Minion is such a good floodgate if it goes off, being able to really punish your opponent from wanting to attack anymore. Like from bottom deck to hand, and then you have your 25k attack with it. You're also playing the old Borgos, so when these play, this card draw 1 during your opponent's turn. If your opponent switches their energy active mode, using a non-awakened skill, choose up to one of your opponent's energy placed in always drop area. So this is really good against specifically Crimson because it does mess with the effect of the leader. So if they want to try to awaken with that, especially like if they want to use the activate battle effect from the leader as well, this will interact with it. So it doesn't have any protection, unfortunately, but I think it's a good card for as much Crimson as you are able to see. And I think that's pretty standard for the rest of this list. Nothing else. Are you running? Yeah, Majin Buu's are Unison. We do have some more like floodgate stuff. We have another Whis Judge of the Gods if you want to be really, really crazy with it. Ready to Rumble is just the best. This is probably like the best floodgate in the game, at least for blue, in the sense it would besides like Hatch just ending the turn. But being able to have like at least the effect of being able to say like they have to bottom deck an energy every time they attack, like that is such a mean condition. Obviously you're playing 4 for this Vegeta, but man, that is such a harsh condition to push on attacking. And that sometimes you just mean like that guarantees they can only swing like 3 more times, and even if they do, they have no energy next turn. So I think that's everything I want to talk about. Just Wang Po, met him for the first time. I've known about him and talked with him for a while. So really happy to get the opportunity to see him in person, see him play in action, or see him play in person rather. It was really a really big treat, and just congrats to him on their top 4 finish. 2 more decks for us. We do have Markus Kantarci, who was able to get their top 8 placement into Worlds with his LCQ finish of top 2. So really big accomplishment there. And playing it with the ultimate form, Golden Frieza, which is a set 1 leader. Like we are hitting set 20 pretty much in like a week from this video dropping, and you are still playing cards from the first set in the game, and I think that's a really, really cool thing to do. So this deck is pretty complex for what it does. Has a lot of synergy with how the leader works, and like even though this is a yellow leader, we all know this is a yellow leader, it's pretty much a blue leader, and I say that because it does have the energy untap, which is usually reserved to these blue leaders. But like this one, very, very strong. Place 1 Frieza Army battle card in your drop area. Choose up to 2 of your energy, switch to the active mode, and then you get to draw a card, right? Only thing about this leader, and something you have to be careful about, is that you do have to have some form of self-awakening. You have no way to inherently like gain card advantage during your opponent's turn. So I think that's something that's very strong. But sorry, you can't like attack and get the card draw, so you have to get some awakening, which isn't inherently in the leader. But I think it's just a really strong effect of cycling. There's so many like this. The game's been out for so long that there's so many just 1-drop Frieza armies that say draw a card. That's it. Like these are what the Tacomas do in this deck. They say that I draw 1, and then you could use the effect to get the energy untap and then the additional draw 1. So and then also in like on the awakened side, it's just like a free extra energy you get every turn. So you Tacoma, and then you get the +1 of the draw, and then after that you get the 2 untap. So you can be all tapped out, use the effects, and just kind of go from there. So only thing with this too is that I don't see a lot of self-awakenings in this deck. We do have like the 1 of Roshi, which does let you take a card from your life and add it to your hand, and then for 1 you get to choose 1 life. Like you just get to like for 1 keep doing it. So like if you see it, you can pay like 4 energy and take 4 life if you really need to, but it's like one of the fewer ways that you can do the self-awakening. Other kind of tech choices in this, he is running like the 8 drops on Gohan. I really like this package. I think it's really, really neat for what it does, because you are also running some there are some unisons. You're also running the Sun Gohan and Higher Dragon, which also gets to just play one yellow battle card and it costs a 1 from your drop here in rest mode. This goes gated, which just means like this can just help increase you get your cycle. It pretty much says draw 1, untap 1. Like this just the +1 that helps you get there. And I think that's really cool. And then obviously Sun Gohan Z Fighter is great. The Empower ability is great too. So for example, you can play this. For 1, you can use the effect to +1 to get a 1 drop out, which then you can later use to get the energy untap 2 out, and then you can do the Empower on top of the Gohan there. So I think that's great. Floodgates with Oceanus, the Mira, the 5-drop Mira, 5-drop Frieza Divine Transformation is a good card. And then also like Mecha Frieza is just better because you can counter with it and then you can get rid of it next turn. Just a really great deck in a lot of ways. Any other synergies from here? Mostly more the same. Just some backup unisons that might be better in some matchups. Hasty Dispatch Dispo is essentially the same thing if you have no cards in your battle area. So you can use it to play a 1-drop from your drop area for free, which you can just use your leader effect. It's kind of hard to get there, but I can see why it's in there for certain matchups. Tyrannical Blow is a good card. We do have the Vegeta here because we are running. I don't think they're main decking any, right? Yeah, none in the main deck. You have this Borgos, which counterplay when this card's played. Choose a it's like a Crusher Ball essentially on an auto, so it gets around deflect but doesn't get around barrier. I think that's it. I think the only thing is that I'm surprised there's not more self-awakening in the side in case like some more Roshis in case you really need it. That's the only thing I could think of for that might be strong for it. So. But I think, obviously getting that top 2 finish on day 1, getting in top 8, really big accomplishment. I know that Markus has been personally grinding this game very hard, not only getting the top 16 for North America, but also Oceania, and then getting a second place finish here in the LCQ to get to the top 8 is a really big accomplishment. So congrats to Markus on their finish this weekend. And to wrap it on up, we do have our last one of the day. It is this Supreme Kai of Time, and this is, let me make sure, this is Sawyer's list as well. So got top 8 on day 1, did not get into the LCQ top 2 for the World Finals on Sunday, but using Supreme Kai of Time, which is probably the best black leader that we have. It's kind of, I don't know, like there's always been the aggro kind of black deck where it's kind of like the Vegex kind of effect where you just kind of play stuff for free. You get to, move stuff from your warp and your drop area, get some effects from it. We do have new supports for this, including like the 6-drop Trunks and the Koten. Both very good for this deck for not only just how you can play with them, but their overwhelm and just the effects of that. Because Son Goku, Xeno, this is such a good card. This is like, I would almost say like a stupidly good card for the archetype. I don't think it's broken, but like it just does everything, right? It's either, it's a counter. So like the fact that this can be a cooler is great. Activate main. Send this card to owner's warp, draw 2, then discard 1. So, or warp 1, right? Which you can use a counter, you play it, and then you do this afterwards. Or you can overwhelm for 3, which sometimes you just need a cheap overwhelm, and then you can use the effect to do that. Or if your leader is a Black Supreme Kai Time and you discard this card from your hand, look at top 5 for a Son Goku Xeno or Black Xeno. A Vegeta Xeno as well. So if you need one more card in your drop area for your overwhelm plays, like you can just discard this for free. Like all these effects are good. Like it's just silly how much support and how flexible this card is for the archetype itself. Petrification, probably a pretty good floodgate and like interaction card for the deck. Obviously, you can play around it a little bit, but also 4 of the Majin Buu human extinction attacks. So why this is important is that if all your energy is black when you activate this card, choose it to 1 battle card in your opponent's drop area, send it to the top, send it to the warp, then place it to 4 cards from the top of the deck in your drop area. So part of the reason this card is so good is because Crimson needs to have those 5 Saiyans in their drop area. So if you use this card to warp one of the Saiyans they are hoping to get underneath their leader, it just means that it's going to be harder for them to awaken, or they have to like discard more cards to get there. So I think this is a really, really good tech card for that matchup. If you want to try to beat blue a little bit better, I think this is the card to do that and at least help you get your way. Everything else I think is pretty standardish for this archetype. I think a lot of people like Supreme Kai Time. I'm happy it got some support. It never it was like a fan favorite, I think, for a little bit, but it just didn't feel like it got there. And I think all the support that it got with the 6-drops and also the pan search for another world really helps you get there, especially since it's like an overwhelm as well with Wormhole. Like that's really great, and being able to just keep your cards out, I think, is good there. Everything else, it's just like black just has really good support cards, so these are all very good. But anyways, that is going to be it for us. I am exhausted, so I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. It was, again, a huge blast to be here. I'm really happy for the opportunity, and honestly, I just can't wait for next year and everything else. So thank you guys so much for watching. Again, thank you to everyone who said hi and enjoyed the stream, and I'll catch you all next time.